They drag her down a corridor that smells of bleach and old fear. A guard shoves her forward and her knees buckle from earlier blows. Hands pin her to a chair and the lamp burns white in her eyes. A voice asks for names softly like a man ordering tea. Irena Sendler stares back and gives him only her breathing. Someone strikes her legs and she answers with the same hard silence. The interrogator leans closer as if kindness might loosen her tongue. He says children are dying while she hides behind patriotic slogans. He offers water and a doctor if she gives him addresses. Then his voice turns cold and he nods to the guards. Pain returns, steady and methodical, like stamps hitting paper all day. Irena Sendler does not speak because speech would become a death list. This is Pawiak Prison in German-occupied Warsaw, October 1943. The Gestapo believes she is finally trapped, finally broken, finally useful. They think a woman with no weapon will trade secrets for mercy. They have not yet learned what her silence is protecting outside. They have not yet learned what one parcel saved minutes earlier. The staircase boots are gone, but the war is now inside her bones. Irena Sendler had been born Irena Sendler long before code names. She was born on February 15, 1910, in Warsaw, Poland. Her father, Stanislaw Sendler, worked as a physician among the poor. He died in 1917 after catching typhus from his patients. His lessons stayed simple. When someone drowns, you jump in. That rule shaped her more than any speech or schoolbook ever could. She carried that rule into adulthood, into work, and into danger. Before the war, she worked for Warsaw's social welfare department. She visited cramped flats, recorded hunger, and fought for assistance. She learned which offices moved fast and which offices stalled on purpose. She learned how stamps opened doors and how signatures could destroy lives. When war arrived, those lessons became tools sharper than any blade. Germany invaded Poland on September 1, 1939. Suddenly, Warsaw became occupied territory and the city's breath changed overnight. Curfews arrived, then ration cards, then arrests without explanation daily. Uniforms filled streets, and whispers replaced normal conversations every day. Food lines grew longer, and winter made hunger sharper and crueler. Irena did not look away, and that choice would cost her dearly. In November 1940, the Germans sealed the Warsaw Ghetto. Walls and gates cut the city, and the cut never stopped bleeding. Close to 400,000 Jews were forced into a small district. Overcrowding brought disease, and death arrived without a single gunshot. Quarantine signs appeared, but the quarantine was really for human beings. Irena saw it clearly. The ghetto was a slow execution. Irena obtained a municipal permit to inspect sanitary conditions inside. The permit sounded dull, like routine health work, which helped her. She walked through guarded gates, carrying medicine, food, and messages. Inside, she met Jewish welfare workers struggling to keep families alive. Every visit showed children with eyes too old and bodies too thin. She left each time, and the gate clanged behind her like judgment. She began with small risks, because small risks teach survival. A bundle of medicine today, a message tomorrow, a child's name remembered. She watched which guards accepted bribes and which guards wanted blood. She learned routes through streets where walls hid movement and sound. Each day, the occupation tightened, and the ghetto tightened faster. By 1942, Warsaw felt like a city running out of air. In summer 1942, deportations began from the Warsaw Ghetto. Trains rolled toward Treblinka, and families vanished in days, not weeks. About 280,000 people were deported from Warsaw in that action. After that catastrophe, the Polish underground created Żegota in the fall. Żegota existed to aid Jews in hiding, using money, papers, and contacts. Irena joined and took the underground name Jolanta to protect others. Rescue demanded more than bravery, because bravery alone left corpses. It demanded forged identity papers, safe apartments, and money for bribes. It demanded trusted couriers who could walk calmly past German patrols. It demanded persuading parents to hand children to strangers in secret. Mothers asked Irena for guarantees, and she could offer none. She offered only a slim chance, balanced on a knife edge. She spoke to parents inside rooms where walls seemed to listen. She watched hands tremble as mothers held children tighter, then looser. Some parents agreed at once, because delay meant deportation anyway. Some asked her to return later, hoping for a miracle overnight. Sometimes she returned and found empty rooms and silence on stairways. She carried those losses like stones, but she kept walking forward. Children left the ghetto by many routes, each one brutally risky. Some were hidden in ambulances, where barking dogs masked dangerous sounds. Some were carried in sacks, toolboxes, or other concealed compartments. Some passed through underground passages, including sewers and hidden corridors. On the Aryan side, they needed new identities and new stories. One wrong word could send them back behind walls, or worse. A child learned a new name without crying for the old. A child learned which prayers to mimic and when to stay quiet. A child learned to answer questions with the right accent and rhythm. Foster families took them in, knowing discovery could mean death. Orphanages and convents hid them because doors could be weapons too. Every safe bed required someone else to accept terror in silence. Irena wrote every child's true identity in code, not plain ink. She recorded original names, new names, and where each child was hidden. Those records were sealed in glass jars and buried underground. She believed the war would end and the jars would surface again. She was not saving bodies alone. She was saving truth for later. Without names, rescued children could become living orphans of history. By spring 1943, the ghetto's final destruction arrived. German forces crushed armed resistance, then burned and demolished the district. By September 1943, only ruins remained where streets had lived. That month, Żegota needed a director for its Jewish children's work. Irena Sendler was appointed to lead that department, still under her alias. Her work shifted from entry permits to placements, payments, and constant cover. She used contacts with orphanages, convents, schools, hospitals, and apartments. Many children were placed in the Rodzina Marii orphanage in Warsaw. Others were hidden with nuns in Chotomo, near the city's edges. Some were sheltered in Turquoise, near Lublin, farther from German eyes. Every placement required silence from adults and discipline from frightened children. Every day demanded courage that looked like boring routine on the surface. Then October 20th, 1943, arrived like a slammed door. 9 German soldiers climbed the stairs toward Irena Sendler's apartment. She hears boots in the stairwell, heavy, confident, and hungry. On her table lies money for bribes and coded addresses for children. If the Gestapo seizes them, thousands of children become targets. She moves because hesitation is a death sentence in Warsaw. She grabs a small parcel, heavy with code and terrible meaning. It holds the list of children's true identities and placements. She opens the window, and cold air snaps her mind awake. Below, a friend waits, trying to look ordinary in the street. Irena drops the parcel, and it vanishes under a coat instantly. The door bursts open, and the room fills with leather and shouting. They search drawers, cupboards, and walls, tearing paper like it insults them. Hands seize her arms, and an officer's voice calls her a criminal. She is dragged downstairs past neighbors who stare, frozen and silent. A truck waits, and Warsaw blurs behind dirty windows as it moves. She is transferred into Gestapo custody, then sent to Pawiak prison. Pawiak is infamous, a waiting room where death's schedule often wins. Now the story returns to present tense to the chair and lamp. An interrogator asks for names, soft and polite, as if rehearsed. Irena Sendler keeps her mouth closed and counts her own breathing. A fist cracks her face and metal scrapes across her teeth. They strike her legs again and again because pain is their language. She answers with silence, and the silence becomes her sharpest weapon. Interrogations continue, and each session begins with the same demands. They want collaborators, routes, hiding places, and the buried lists. They threaten execution and speak the word like reading a calendar. They threaten people she loved and people she barely knew. They beat her feet and legs during questioning, leaving lasting injuries. Still, she does not speak, because speech would become a massacre. They try a softer approach, then a crueler one, then both. They promise comfort, then deliver humiliation, then return to fists. They ask for a single name, just one as a beginning. She gives none because one name becomes a map for a raid. Pain surges, then fades into a numb drumbeat behind her eyes. She stays silent, and the silence keeps others breathing outside. Time blurs inside Pawiak, where daylight arrives filtered and cold. She hears screams from other rooms, and every scream carries information. She learns which guards enjoy cruelty and which guards follow orders. She learns that some men are machines and some are worse. They offer a doctor if she cooperates, then laugh when she refuses. Her breaking point never arrives because her mission is larger than pain. They bring forms and demand she sign statements naming accomplices. Her hands tremble, but she refuses because ink can kill too. They say children will die slowly unless she gives addresses. She pictures convent corridors and frightened faces learning nuances quickly. She pictures German boots at those doors because one sentence could guide them. So she stays silent, and her silence holds the line. Outside the prison, Żegota moves like shadow across occupied Warsaw. They learn Irena Sendler has been sentenced to death by German authorities. They gather money and contacts because rescue now requires bribing officials. They find the right hands to pay and the right moment to act. In February 1944, Irena Sendler is released from death's path. Her execution does not happen because corruption briefly defeats the Gestapo. She emerges damaged, unable to walk normally after brutal interrogations, yet she takes a new identity because her old name remains hunted. She returns to underground work, even while authorities keep watch. She understands survival means hiding, but hiding does not mean stopping. She continues helping Żegota because stopping would turn silence into betrayal. The war still rages, and children still need safe beds tonight. What did her silence protect, beyond her own battered body? It protected the network hiding Jewish children across Warsaw and nearby towns. The number saved remains uncertain, but estimates reached as high as 2,500. It protected coded lists of real names and adopted identities, sealed underground. It protected foster families and institutions risking death for each hidden child. Had she spoken, raids would have followed, and rescue would have collapsed. When the war ended in 1945, Warsaw did not celebrate easily. The city stood scarred, and too many families were missing forever. Irena Sendler helped recover the buried records, and the glass jars returned. She used coded notes to trace children's origins and search for relatives. Often there were none, because Treblinka had erased whole family lines. Still, names were restored, and survivors learned the truth of themselves. Many children learned their first families had been murdered in camps. Some met surviving relatives, and some met only a blank space. Irena Sendler kept working because rescue did not end with surrender. She rebuilt lives with nothing but names, courage, and fragile documents. She refused glory and spoke often of mothers forced into impossible choices. Her work had stolen no children, it had stolen them back. Recognition came slowly because post-war politics often buried wartime stories completely. In October 19, 1965, Yad Vashem honored her as righteous. A tree was planted in her honor on the Avenue of the Righteous. She lived in Warsaw with injuries, memories, and stubborn moral clarity. Irena Sendler died on May 12, 2008, aged 98. Yet the children's names endured because she refused to trade them for relief. Return once more to that chair, the lamp, and the gentle voice. The interrogator believes pain can buy truth because pain usually works. Irena Sendler proves him wrong, and her refusal saves strangers she never met. Warsaw's walls fall later, but her silence stands unbroken against their questions. Somewhere, an adult remembers a borrowed name and keeps living forward.